Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
And greetings to you, Genies near and far. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. The program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment is brought to you by MyHeritage.com. I'm excited today because we have our first DNA segment of the year. We're going to be focusing on why you need to find other descendants, maybe distant cousins, to help you zero in on your target ancestor. Why would you need to do that? Why would you need to talk to strangers? Paul Woodbury, the DNA specialist from Legacy Tree Genealogists, is going to be here to talk about that. And then later in the show, it's a new TV series coming out on PBS called Family Pictures USA. I'm going to be talking to the host and director of the show, Thomas Allen Harris, and he'll give us a little idea about what you might be able to do to be a part of that show. And as we get ready for Roots Tech coming up on February 28th, going through March 3rd in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Salt Palace Convention Center, a lot of people are planning to come out, and a lot of people are preparing to give you a real good time when you get there. And one of those people is Jessica Taylor. She is the founder and president of Legacy Tree Genealogists. And Jessica, tell us about this great plan you've got going with the Genealogy Business Alliance.
Sure. So the Genealogy Business Alliance is basically a platform where all the genealogy businesses in the world can talk to each other, get support, work on cool projects that we come up with together. And one of those cool projects is at Roots Tech. So we've come up with a really fun scavenger hunt for our visitors. The expo hall is enormous. Anyone who's been to Roots Tech knows.
It's too big, frankly. It's a lot of stuff, but there's some good stuff in there.
Yes, there absolutely is. And so we thought, let's make something really fun for the whole week that people can do and that members of the Genealogy Business Alliance can be a part of and help people remember some of these folks that they visited in this enormous expo hall. So the scavenger hunt basically is comprised of 16 genealogy-related companies. And as you visit their booth, there will be a QR code or a special URL that you can type in to answer some questions about the booth. And as you answer those questions, you're going to get discounts, coupons, and you'll also be entered into a really big giveaway among all of these companies. We're all contributing prizes that can be won by participating. So it'll be really fun. It's at gba.buzz. That's where the website info is if anybody wants to check that out.
gba.buzz, B-U-Z-Z?
That's right.
Awesome. And what are the prizes, by the way, involved here?
So we've got a lot of DNA kits being given away.
Ooh.
We've got top-level subscriptions to MyHeritage and Find My Past. Roots Magic is giving away some software. Legacy Tree Genealogists, who I'm representing, we're giving away a $350 DNA discovery project for someone. That involves a detailed research plan involving DNA. We've got some free tutorials, additional subscriptions, a free MyHeritage book. And I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of the people who are part of the Genealogy Business Alliance and have really put in a lot of work to make this scavenger hunt happen. And first, that would be Janet Havorka. She is a co-creator of the Alliance and with Family Chartmasters. So they're giving away a great DNA chart that you can hang on your wall. And then Devin Lee has done a lot of work as well, and she's with Family History Fanatics. And they'll be giving away a combo pack and announcing the winners on the Monday after Roots Tech on their YouTube channel. So that's Family History Fanatics. That's where you'll get to watch and see if you won. And then one other shout out that I don't want to forget, and that is just the amazing Roots Tech organizers who have let us do this. Because, this is a little bit outside the box. This is just, these companies, we're really friends. We love each other. We want to support each other. And this is a way for us to get together and do something cool at Roots Tech. And so I'm really thankful that the organizers have allowed us to do that kind of thing. So it should be super fun.
All right, golf clap for the folks from Roots Tech. Very nice. Thank you very much.
You bet.
GBA.buzz, the Genealogy Business Alliance at Roots Tech, coming up February 28th through March 3rd. This is a great thing to look into because the prizes sound incredible.
Yeah, lots of good stuff.
All right. Thanks so much, Jessica. We look forward to seeing you next month.
It'll be a great time.
And somebody else who's going to be at Roots Tech next month is on the line with me right now. David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. A lot to fit on a business card. David, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Fish. I want to give you an interesting story, and it's a cry out for help from the Fremont County, Colorado Judicial Center, where the ashes of Esther O'Connor, who died in 1991, have been there for 18 years. They're looking for the family.
Wow. Yeah, this poor woman's ashes have been sitting down in the basement at this court building for years, and here comes this clerk and finds them and says, this is a dark, dusty place. They shouldn't be here. So she's been actually keeping them on her shelf in her office for 18 years, and they've been looking for family, but not with a lot of luck.
Yeah, I hope that maybe one of our listeners might be able to plug some genealogical data in. If you have an Esther O'Connor that was born June 6, 1939 in Moores Hill, Indiana, dying in 1991 in Cannon City, Colorado, this is someone they're trying to find relatives for. Hopefully this will be a happy ending and the family will be reunited with the ashes. However, do you recall that story we were chatting about at Christmas time?
Oh, my gosh, yes. The woman who was taking her mother's ashes and sprinkling them on her Christmas meal. That's how she was going to share Christmas with Mom?
I mean, I guess to each his own, but I don't think of Mom as paprika.
No.
I hope that all's well that ends well there, too. Our blogger spotlight this week shines upon climbingmyfamilytree.blogspot.com. This is a great blog by Marion B. Wood where she talks about different adventures in her family tree, and recently she's talking about the dilemma of what project she should do next. Take a peek at her blog on January 13th, 2018, chicken post or egg post. Read it and find out more.
All right, David, thank you so much. And coming up next, we talk DNA with the DNA specialist from Legacy Tree Genealogists, Paul Woodbury, in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Hey, Genies, it's Fisher, and whether you're new to family history, a seasoned pro, or you've simply missed the event in years past, now's your chance to connect at Roots Tech. It's the world's largest family history conference. Now, you can join everybody for 4 days of discovery and make connections to your past, enjoy world-class entertainment, interactive booths, and hundreds of hands-on classes. Listen to celebrity speakers like former Olympic gold medalist Scott Hamilton and Brandon Stanton, the founder of the Humans of New York photo blog, and Henry Louis Gates Jr., host of the hit PBS show Finding Your Roots. Purchase your 4-day Roots Tech Pass today and save over $80 on a regularly priced pass. Learn the latest about DNA, explore recently released record sets, and interact with exciting technology. You can join the excitement and the fun. Discover your family. Discover yourself. Discover Roots Tech. Roots Tech 2018, February 28th through March 3rd at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City, Utah. Register at rootstech.org.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com. nbsp.com.
Hi, Genies. It's Scott Fisher, host of Extreme Genes, with an invitation for you to join our brand spanking new Extreme Genes Patrons Club. Now, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is where, for as little as $1 a month, Genies everywhere can take advantage of Extreme Genes rewards, such as early access to our latest podcasts, members-only bonus podcasts, acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, and special monthly live online question and answer sessions with well-known family history experts. Catch visits with genealogy stars such as David Allen Lambert, photo detective Maureen Taylor, DNA expert C.C. Moore, and many other experts and storytellers. If you find yourself craving more stories, more ideas for digging up your dead, more inspiration, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is for you. The rewards start at just $1 a month. Find out more now. Just go to extremegenes.com and click on our special Extreme Genes Patrons Club link at the top right. Or go to patreon.com/extremegenes. And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment is brought to you by 23andme.com DNA. Always happy to talk DNA, by the way, with my good friend Paul Woodbury from legacytree.com. Happy New Year, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You know, it's always fun to learn a few new things that we can share with people concerning DNA and the best way to utilize it. And I thought we'd talk today a little about descendant research and why it's so important, and certainly well beyond just what's my ethnicity, right?
Absolutely. And I think this ties really well into the idea of DNA testing plans, of planning your research, planning to have success with genetic genealogy, and that fits great with the new year, with any goals that you may be setting in how to use genetic genealogy to explore your family history.
Well, let's get started here with this. I mean, the idea of tracking down other descendants, and in my mind, as we talk about this, I'm thinking about people that we don't necessarily know to help us with our studies, right?
Yes. So when you're doing research on a specific subject in your family history, you want to consider this person within the context of what we call the genealogical proof standard.
Okay.
You can learn more about the genealogical proof standard through the Board for the Certification of Genealogists. There's 5 main points, and one of those points is reasonably exhaustive research. Essentially, you can't get to genealogical proof until you've covered all of your bases, that you've considered all records that could provide information regarding your research question, and that you're using the best records and the best evidence to inform regarding your research question. When we apply that to DNA, it gets a little tricky because usually with traditional genealogical research, we're looking at archives, repositories, different record collections that could help us in the exploration of our research. In DNA, the records that we're using are actually the descendants of the people that we're researching.
That's right.
So if you're going to consider all of those records that could be informative for your research case, you have to know who are those records, who are the descendants of that person who are still living, who could carry DNA that would inform regarding your research question.
Okay, so let's slow down a minute here because that's very heady stuff. I'm trying to get my brain around it. But in my mind, and having done some of this stuff before and tracking down strangers and saying, hey, can I pay for a test for you to do this? Who are you? What do you want? I mean, you really have to kind of figure out what are the chances that it's going to work for you. And that gets back down now to the numbers in terms of, okay, well, how distant a cousin can I test and reasonably expect that that's going to help me solve my DNA and research question?
Absolutely. And another thing that you'll want to ask in connection with that is, am I one of the best candidates to actually do DNA testing to explore this research question?
Right. For example, I had one last year, Paul, to your point, where I'm a descendant of a man who was my 4th grade grandfather, and we were trying to prove that he was within the name line. that he was not adopted into it, because that was what some of the speculation was. So I tracked down a guy who is a direct male line descendant, because as somebody who doesn't descend through the name line, I couldn't do that Y-DNA test. So I found a guy who was a fifth cousin, called him up, introduced myself, explained to him what we were trying to do, and he agreed to take the test. And we did the test, and it actually proved that my fourth great-grandfather was, in fact, a great-grandson of the immigrant, as we had hoped, and certainly we're now able to prove.
Absolutely, and you certainly will do these types of targeted testing for those direct line paternal ancestors or maternal ancestors using Y-DNA or mitochondrial DNA, but the same principle applies to autosomal DNA as well. Because with autosomal DNA, I get 50% from each of my parents, 25% from my grandparents, about half that for every previous generation. And if I do a DNA test with the intent of researching my fourth great-grandmother, I'm going to have inherited a very little amount of DNA from that individual.
Right. And that you're going to share with somebody else.
And that I'm going to share with somebody else. Absolutely. So if I actually look at that individual and trace her descendants, I have a living great aunt that I could test who's 2 generations closer to the ancestor of interest. That greatly increases our odds of being able to connect with other individuals from that ancestral line. And if I search among her other descendants, I may find other individuals who are even closer, possibly some of her living grandchildren or great-grandchildren.
That makes sense. Okay.
So their DNA tests are going to be much more helpful than my measly 1% of DNA that I got from that ancestor.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The question, I guess, comes down to, what are the numbers? I mean, I think it's very easy to say, all right, yes, first cousin, second cousin, and those, various steps removed. You can reasonably expect that you're going to find a certain number of matches, or you're going to find somebody that you can reach out to. But then you start getting back to third cousins, fourth cousins, fifth cousins. What are the numbers on those, Paul, where you say, okay, I need to find somebody who might be of the same generation as I am to prove a third grade? So you need a fourth cousin. Those numbers are pretty good too, right? But then you get to fourth. What do the percentages start to look like in terms of shared DNA, potentially? How many people are you likely to share DNA with?
So with your third cousins, the estimates vary between about 90 to 98%. You're going to share DNA with about 90 to 98% of your third cousins. Third cousins, once removed, that gets to about 75%. By the time you are at fourth cousins, you share some DNA with about 50% of your fourth cousin.
Okay.
So if you get beyond that, it just gets lower and lower. There's some great tables on that in the Ancestry DNA help menus.
Okay. But the good news, though, would be that as you go further back, even though the numbers might get down to, all right, maybe I will share DNA with sixth cousins, maybe only 1 in 10 of them, right? But there are so many more sixth cousins because you're back there so far. They should be out there to be found, yes?
Yes, and I think as you get back that far, that you have increased chances of being able to connect with individuals in the databases who have already performed testing.
Right.
So in this case, you may not need to recruit everybody that you need for your research case. That being said, though, as you test individuals from different lines, you increase the amount of DNA that is represented in the database for your target ancestor, something that I like to call coverage.
That makes sense.
The amount of DNA that you're covering for that ancestor, because we all inherit different parts of that DNA. So by testing different descendants from different ancestral lines, they may not all relate to each other, they may not all be genetic cousins to each other, but they should tie into a larger group of relatives that you can then use to explore the ancestry of your target ancestor.
And I think to explain what you're saying in a more simpler way, for instance, if you had both parents deceased, if you tested how many children, you could actually reproduce up to 90-some-odd% the DNA of the parents, right?
Yeah, so if you have 2 parents who are deceased, you could reconstruct or recover about 75% of the parent's DNA by testing 2 siblings.
Okay. And if you did 3?
If you did 3, it's about 87%. And if you do 4, you get up to 94%.
Wow. That's pretty significant. And the benefit of that is what then? To have all those siblings, even though you know how you're related and everything, what would the benefit of that be?
So by testing siblings, you can get higher coverage of each of the parents' DNA. And using that, you can then look at cousins, because genetic cousins are based on the segments of DNA that you share with genetic relatives.
Right.
So by testing multiple siblings, that covers more of the DNA of your parents and increases the odds of connecting with additional relatives who could be informative for your research question.
There you go. All right. And that's the bottom line. Boy, this is really good stuff here, Paul. You ought to do more of this.
I try.
So how do we take this information then and put a plan into action?
So I think the first step is really tracing out all of the descendants of your research subject and tracing out who are the living candidates that I could reach out to invite to test. The individuals that you want to focus on first are going to be the closest generational descendants.
Okay.
Not necessarily the oldest living relatives. In this case, what you want to focus on is searching for the youngest children of the youngest children of the youngest children of your target ancestor, because those individuals have the longest generation times. Then, once you have prioritized those individuals, you proceed through all of the other living descendants that you've identified, and you prioritize those candidates based on who is going to maximize the coverage of your ancestors. And there are some equations for coverage. Here at Legacy Tree, we have a calculator that we use to analyze and to help prioritize a DNA testing plan, so we'd be happy to help you do that. But essentially, what you want to do is get the closest generational descendants from as many unique descent lines as possible. If you have the choice, you should test 2 first cousins rather than 2 siblings.
Interesting.
If you have the choice, you would want to test 2 second cousins versus 2 first cousins.
Okay, because they go further back, right?
Because they go further back, and because that's going to maximize the coverage of your ancestors' DNA that you're trying to research.
He's really smart. He's Paul Woodbury. He's the DNA specialist at LegacyTree.com. I'm going to have to listen back to this segment, I think, 2 or 3 times here, Paul. But this is really good stuff, very helpful, and I look forward to exploring more of it in 2018. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year.
More good stuff straight ahead on Extreme Genes.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And welcome back. It is Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. And, you know, we've seen a plethora of new television shows that have come on and are relating to family history over the last several years. And there's a new one that's coming soon that's really rather intriguing that you're going to want to check out on a PBS station near you. It's called Family Pictures USA. And I have the host, the producer, the director, the Grand Imperial Poobah of that show on the line with me right now. Thomas Allen Harris, how are you? Welcome to Extreme Genes.
Thank you, Scott. Great to be here with you.
Tell us about this show and how it got started and what people can do to be a part of it.
Well, the show is still in pilot development phase, and we're probably going to be hitting the air sometime later 2018, but it's called Family Pictures USA, as you mentioned, and the show evolved out of a project we were doing called Digital Diaspora Family Reunion, and we would go around the country inviting people to share their family photographs. This is at the beginning of the digital age, and people were trying to figure out, well, how do I digitize all this material I have? And my route to helping them was telling them to think of a narrative and start digitizing images that were connected to a story. So we would do this with people, and a roadshow evolved. And the first time we did this roadshow was in 2009 in Atlanta, and we had hundreds of people come with their family photographic albums, and we realized, wow, this is like amazing.
It's powerful.
And yeah, some people came with trunk loads of images, and that's actually, you know, when we started saying, okay, well, think of a story, and we're just going to tackle 20 images out of your 150 here. But, you know, in some ways, this evolved out of my personal documentary filmmaking of the last 25 years. I've been making these kind of personal films that somehow mine my family archive to tell larger stories. My stepdad was from South Africa. He was a freedom fighter who was fighting against the apartheid movement. And so he left with 12 other guys. And out of all of them, he's the only one that decided to use media as his weapon of choice. And at that time, there were so few stories that were coming out of South Africa. And equally, there were few stories about the growing anti-apartheid movement that was getting back to people in South Africa. So that he came to this country, studied journalism, and went to Temple University and Lincoln University, but he couldn't get a job in television. And instead, he used his camera to document the anti-apartheid movement in exile, and ultimately he ended up working at the United Nations in the anti-apartheid radio division.
Wow.
So, yes, but he took these photographs, and so when he passed away, I took his archive back to South Africa, and I realized that no one knew about what had happened. That was before anyone had heard about Nelson Mandela, you know? And so I introduced these photographs to these young South Africans, young actors, and I asked them to help me create a film that talked about why these people left and kind of followed the story of the 12 that left from Bloemfontein, South Africa. And so I used my family archive to like activate a group and to tell a story. And so as I traveled around the world with that film, they would say to me, you know, I have this family archive. You know, I have a story about a family that's moved from one place to another, and I would love to be able to use my family archive and story to create something like you've done. And so I thought to start this transmedia project, which I was describing earlier, where I would go to people and help them to look at their family photographic archives in a kind of different or transformative way.
So Family Pictures USA then has sprung from all of this, and now you're getting basically into people's attics and basements and those dusty old albums and maybe even an old disc or two.
Exactly. So we decided actually to do this project, Family Pictures USA, and we're looking at specific locations. We shot the pilot in Detroit, but we're looking at Detroit not through the lens of the mass media or through the story that we all know, but we're looking at it through these family photographic albums. So what we usually do is we go and we partner with major organizations and small organizations. We do this huge outreach across the city, and we have hundreds of people come and share their family photographic albums.
Are you going not not only to the urban areas, you're going to the country areas, the rural areas.
Yes, and that's where we're going in 2018. We're working with local public television stations around the country. So we're talking with South Carolina, Alabama Public TV, all these different local public television stations that are rooted in rural spaces, that are rooted in both urban and rural, but also maybe even people in Alaska, Hawaii. Our goal is to show America through the lens of these stories. In Detroit, for instance, we didn't know that this city is a city of entrepreneurs. We had a Polish-American woman who came 97 with her 2 daughters, and she put a picture of her grandmother. Her grandmother was known in the community as the bank because she would loan people money. And one of the people she turned down, actually, was Henry Ford. She wishes she had not turned him down. So it's like all these amazing stories through the eyes of these photographs and these common, ordinary people. And that's what's the amazing thing about this country and our diversity, is that we have these phenomenal stories. We all came from other places, even if it's other places in the United States. And in some ways, we transformed with the journey. We might have lost our language as we adopted English or changed our names, or we developed these other communities, but we were documenting these images to send back home, and we were telling these stories. And right now, we're at a place where people are still taking images, maybe more images than they've ever taken, but so few people are printing these images out, and fewer still are putting them into the books that our grandparents created and passed down to us.
So when do you think the show is going to launch later this year? Have any idea yet?
Well, it's probably going to be a broadcast sometime late 2018, probably November. Okay. But we're a transmedia project as well. So we have a very robust transmedia kind of outlet. So we've been releasing things, through our website, familypicturesusa.com. And so we're going to continue doing that. We have this amazing Flickr album. We have these amazing blogs that you'll be able to encourage people to submit the stories of particular images.
So anybody anywhere can really be a part of it potentially if they have some really powerful pictures.
Exactly. And if they could sign up and reach out to us through familypicturesusa.com and tell us about a story. And the more we get stories from a particular location, let's say Columbia, South Carolina, the more likely we are going to go to that place. And so it's really a kind of a crowdsource project. It's kind of like Antiques Roadshow in that way, and that people bring these gems. But anything you bring is going to have some amazing value, even if it's a value that you didn't know existed. We can't tell you how often people come and they think they're going to tell just a straight story, and then all of a sudden they're moved to tears by the profundity of the experience and why psychically they chose an image, even though they thought they were choosing it for one reason. And when they're telling the story to our team, they all of a sudden have this other or multidimensional kind of experience. And so that's what Family Pictures USA is.
And this can go back as far as anybody wants. It's not just necessarily that individual's lifetime. It can be ancestors from generations ago.
Exactly.
Now, you're doing a fundraising thing, too. I want to get that in before we get out of here. How can people support that show?
Yeah, well, we're doing a crowdfunding Indiegogo campaign until the end of January. And so you could see our Indiegogo link on our website, familypicturesusa.com. And you could click on it and you could contribute as little as $10, as much as $25,000. And each level has its own level of perks.
He's Thomas Allen Harris. He is the host and director of the PBS upcoming series Family Pictures USA. You can go to the site, familypicturesusa.com. Thomas, best of luck to you, and I hope some of our genies can contribute some pictures and be part of it. It sounds like a great deal of fun and really important, too, in bringing people together in a very divided country.
Thank you so much, Scott, and thank you for the work that you're doing and allowing a platform for all these different intersectionality to come together.
We do our best. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Tom Perry talks preservation coming up next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Well, Genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Legacy Tree Genealogists is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. Legacytree.com.
Time to talk preservation on Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth, with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. He is our preservation authority. This segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. Tom's on the road today, and Tom, I got to tell you, first of all, thank you for the tour of your place the other day. Absolutely amazing. And what I can't get over are some of the things you have in there for recording devices. And, you know, having spent my entire career in the audio world, seeing wax cylinder players in somebody's 21st century shop absolutely blows my mind. Where did you get those?
You know, we've actually collected them over the years from different people. Sometimes we'd have somebody come in the store and say, hey, I've got this old machine. I don't even know what it is. We're cleaning out Grandpa's attic. Do you know what it is? And we tell them what it is. And they say, do you want it? We don't want it. And we take them. And if they have wax cylinders, then we'll go and say, okay, give it to us. And we'll go and make you copies of what you have on your wax cylinders onto CDs or MP3s. And so then you get something out of it, too. And it's just amazing how much of this old stuff is getting found, especially now that a lot of our parents are passing away, our grandparents are passing away. This stuff's literally coming out of the woodwork. We had somebody remodeling their house, and they took down a plaster wall, which I guess was new, and they found some old wire recordings and some wax recordings right in the wall.
Now, when you get wax recordings in, are these the old commercial ones that Edison created with singers back in the 19 teens, or do they actually contain voices of ancestors?
Oh, a lot of them are ancestors. There are for sure some commercial stuff, but a lot of times what people do, because this equipment was very, very expensive back in the day, but you got to realize fire departments had to have access to these kind of things to record arson investigations. Of course, the news agencies had all the latest high-tech wax recordings or wire recordings. A lot of people that worked for the government, and they would just check them out for the weekend and bring them home and buy some wax cylinders or whatever, but they didn't have the big investment of the equipment. They borrowed it from their job, and so they were able to do this really cool stuff for their family, and it's still around and it's preserved, and it's just incredible. The sound, especially the wire recordings, is unbelievable.
Well, now, how far back do the wire ones go? We've talked about this before, but I don't recall.
Most of those are like the late 1800s, early 1900s when they did things like that. But the thing that makes them so unique is basically it looks like a piece of fish line, except it's made out of metal. And so once it's engraved, it has little spots in it that it records onto. Metal isn't going to go away unless you leave it in a real bad place that gets rusty or whatever. But you look at audio cassettes, you look at video cassettes, you look at all these things that came years and years afterwards. Just the heat can ruin those things. But these metal things, they last forever because they don't degenerate.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you've actually heard voices then of ancestors of some of these people. What did they say typically? And were they shouting into it? Because obviously there was no volume control back in those times.
Sometimes it was absolutely hilarious. They'd go like, Ethel, is this machine really working here? What's going on? I have no idea. Are we recording? And some people are singing, and some people are just telling stories about, way back, in World War I when, I was young and got in the war and all this kind of stuff. But these are people actually telling these stories, and it's just absolutely incredible. What was the earliest wax ancestral recording you ever got? The earliest thing I ever got was really unique. It was some people that were in some high public offices, and they were sitting there talking about what their work day was, different things that were going on with them, what they liked about their job, what they didn't like about the job. It's so interesting because I couldn't relate to it because it's jobs that don't even exist anymore today, like carriage drivers and different things like this. It's just absolutely incredible. Well, I'm hoping that one of these days we can find some audio from one of the wax cylinders or one of the wire recordings that's unique that you can share with us, because I think everybody would love to hear it. All right, coming up here in just a couple of moments, we're going to take another listener question that's been emailed to Tom. And by the way, you can do that at any time. Just email asktom@tmcplace.com or go to his Twitter page and you can ask publicly at AskTomP. We'll get to that coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genie's, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities. And it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. Back with more on preservation on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It's Fisher here with Tom Perry, our preservation authority from TMCPlace.com. Tom, we have an email from Trudy Peterson, and she says that she had a DVD of her daughter's drill teams that's now been lost, and she wants to know if shops such as yours still have the backups of the masters.
You know, unfortunately, Trudy, that just doesn't happen, whether it's us or the big box stores or, you know, somebody down the street from you. It's physically impossible to back up all that kind of stuff. Even if we put everything in a cloud, that cloud would be so huge. And that's why we tell you and insist, whenever you have something done, always make copies. Duplicates are so inexpensive to do anyway. You know, you want to spread them out. Like we've talked on shows before about hurricane areas, tornado areas, earthquake areas, mudslide areas, fire areas, wherever you are. If you have family living in other parts of the country or good friends, just send them a copy. Even if it's something they're not interested in, say, hey, would you mind keeping this on your bookshelf just as a backup? And, hey, if you've got some stuff, send it to us and we'll keep it. You want to put it in the cloud. You want to have it on a hard drive. You want to have it spread out so far that if something happens, you'll be okay. And a good example of that is in California, they had all this fire and so many people lost their videos, even DVDs and CDs, things that they had already transferred were lost. And those that didn't lose it lost it 2 weeks ago when they had all these mudslides.
Right.
So you need to make sure you spread this stuff around, get it in the cloud. I don't care if you have a copy and somebody across the street has a copy, it's not going to work. And a good example is we talked about years ago when Hurricane Katrina went through the southeast area. There was a family that had backups of all their stuff at their mother's house. And then the photographer that did their wedding, they had backups. And they all lived, 2, 3, 4 miles apart. Yet when Katrina went through, every single one of them got flooded. So they lost everything, even though they thought that they had backups in 2 other places.
Boy, that's absolutely true. And, the good thing is we have places like Family Search where you can store photographs, and they're getting more and more into audio as well. Obviously, MyHeritage, Ancestry, these are great places to store your stuff. And, of course, the clouds, as you mentioned, Tom.
Right, yeah, there are so many places to do it. Just get it done. You need to get it stored someplace. A lot of these have really good records as far as security and things like that. Most stuff that you're going to be storing isn't something that you need to worry about security anyway. But I love Google Cloud. I love Dropbox. I love iCloud. There's so many good clouds out there. There's so many good family history sites that will store your stuff. Just be careful on the photo storage. You want to make sure you read the fine print, because some of them say right in the fine print that they can sell your photos as clip art to other people.
Oh, boy.
So be careful with that.
And let me ask you this, too, Tom, real quick, because we are starting to run out of time here. With a CD or a DVD, these things eventually erode, right? I mean, they have a shelf life of how many years typically?
And that's a good question, because there's so many different degrees of them, just like there's so many different kinds of cars. You can go and buy some off-brand CDs or DVDs in a store, and they can last 3 years and they're gone. And you think, well, this polycarbonate is indestructible. It'll last forever. Well, it's not the polycarbonate. It's a dye. It's the quality of the dye. That's why some discs cost 30 cents, some discs cost 50 cents, some discs cost $1. It's because of the dye that's used in them. So you want to get archival dye like the Tau Udens, which we talk about all the time, that are good quality discs.
All right, Tom. Thanks so much. Great stuff today. Look forward to talking to you next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that's our show for this week. Thanks once again for joining us. And just a reminder, stay in touch throughout the week on our Facebook page. You can also subscribe to our weekly Genie newsletter, which thousands subscribe to for free every week. You just go onto our website, extremegenes.com, click on the weekly Genie there, and get yourself signed up. It's that easy. And also, of course, sign up for our Patron Club. This is where you can support the show, get bonus podcasts, and also monthly visits with me and David Allen Lambert as we share with you our Ask Us Anything segment. It's a great chance for you to ask some experts exactly what you need to know to help make some breakthroughs in your family lines. Hey, talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.